It's 6:04. The meeting is in order. CBOC November to 2022 meeting is in order. Um, Chip, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Okay, if everybody would follow after me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Chip. Um, Roll call. And thank you, Laura, for doing this. Chip is here. Senior citizen organization is vacant. Susan is excused absence. Vinita is here. Paul is not here. Uh, Kathy is here. Carla is here. And Brian is here. Okay. And what about the staff? Usually Kelly is the one who goes to the staff members and make sure that everybody who needs to be in the meeting is in the meeting.
I can do that on behalf of the district if you'd like. Would that be helpful?
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we have Lisa McLean here from Vanner. We have Samara Silverman, also from Vanner. We have Laura here from the communications office. And then I would like to take a moment and introduce Patty Paulson from Key Analytics. Patty Paulson, there's no S, sorry, is the person that's been doing all of the data entry from our financial system Escape into the software that is run by Key Analytics. So it allows us as a district and you as a CBOC to analyze and look at any sort of reports from the entire life of the bond going all the way back to the very beginning, even when we were on a different financial system. So I asked her to come to this meeting tonight just to kind of see and feel and observe. And then she'll be at the December meeting as well. And then more than likely we'll be taking over in January, preparing some of the financial reports that you guys are used to seeing. So we just wanted you to be able to see her and for her to see you and get familiar. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Hillman. Moving on, approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So unfortunately, I don't think we meet the quorum, right, Laura or Carla?
It's supposed to be, what is it? Three out of, it's like 50% of.
Yeah, it's 50% and 3 out of 5 groups represented, which I'm pretty sure we're at.
We should be
business, parent, guardian, and parent, and other. So we have 3 groups represented right now, and we're over 30 or over 50%.
Oh, awesome. Okay, good. Thank God. Do we have any public comments or oral communication?
None for me.
None from me either. So thank you very much for that. Can we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 5th?
Motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Brian. Motion. The meeting minutes approved. The next agenda item is consider approval of resolution of support for California Association of Bond Oversight Committees legislative action plan. I hope everybody got an opportunity to look at them.
I saw it, but I don't really know what it's asking for. Can you summarize it?
Uh, so it's basically a bill coming from CABOC, which is California Board of Oversight Committees, and the bill is going to be tackling a lot of the issues that are happening throughout the state with the with bond oversight committees. We have, I think, if I'm not wrong, there are over 1,000 bond oversight committees throughout the state, and they not are luckily we are not in those gray committees, but there are many committees throughout the state which don't have much oversight. They don't have much power to oversee. So this is so they are bringing up a bill at the legislative level from at California state level, and the ask is that Hoover Commission was the one which went through lots of bond committees throughout the state, and they identified, if I'm not wrong, they identified around 21 or so issues going on throughout the state, and the bill is going to be addressing some of them. Um, this is a resolution for us to support the um, the bringing up of the bill. So, like, we stand behind the bill if the bill becomes a reality. And Brian has read through everything, so Brian can answer a few questions if you have any questions. I don't want to answer much because I don't want to be considered a because I'm also in the CABOC legislative action team. So I I I want to stay away as far as possible, but I would like us to weigh in and see if we can support this resolution.
So, Brian, does it create any new requirements that we would have to abide with, or?
It is pretty extensive, actually. And the link of the legislative plan is in the is in our agenda. But I guess I'll quickly characterize some of it, just reading from the document, and then we can move to discussion. But there's a provision for online training materials for citizen bond oversight committees. Actually, maybe I should go to the summary. There's a summary version too.
Yeah, there is
I'll go back to
yeah,
the one I actually read. The performance audit. Oh, actually, it's part of the legislative plan to include effectiveness and results of a bond program performance audit, but there's an administrative approach to achieving that goal. So it's not. So it's been removed from the plan, but it's an interesting one because I think it's been a topic of conversation for us in the past. Expand the role of the CBOC in selecting and interfacing with the bond program auditors. So that would be
I think the biggest take will be making CPOC more independent and not so much dependent from the board. And the second biggest that I see is installing members in the CPOC, because that, like us, many of the CPOCs are struggling because it is either not a priority of the board, or there are not enough people who are approaching the board and asking to be installed in the committees. And representation is the third one. The kind of people who represent the bond oversight committee.
This is Kathy.
But
I have just a few thoughts. I said that I felt in principle what they were proposing was certainly good. However, independence is not garnered unless you have a financial independence too. And as there was no funding for CBOCs, I don't see that that's going to achieve anything in providing a level of independence from school boards, because that just isn't going to happen unless there is money. The second thing is, and I am a little bit concerned about it, is that's the third thing I'm going to be concerned with. The second thing about it is this does not affect what happens in other states whatsoever. So the preliminary thing that you talked about it being a problem in other states, that's actually irrelevant to this point, because this is a California initiative, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so
And
it
the
was.
third thing
Did I
is,
mention state?
you were talking about it's a problem in other states, and so I
Oh, no,
thought
no, no. I meant to say
okay.
other CBOCs, not state. If
Okay,
I said it, I'm
I
sorry.
misunderstood that.
Yeah.
I also don't know really, I don't have a good handle on what position we are in to vote on something supporting an initiative as a citizen subcommittee. I'm not sure about that.
That
I'm
part was
just not
checked.
sure about that.
Yeah, that part was checked, and we were told that we can take our own stand, and then after that, if we want, we can encourage the unified district school board to adopt it too. But we, as an independent committee, we are allowed to do that.
Well, as an outgoing member in March, I would just say be careful what you push for. And so
Fair enough.
It is worth, one of the topics you mentioned, Kathy, is addressed in their document. One of the requests is require districts to provide a minimal budget for the oversight committees, including a budget to hire independent counsel with municipal bond experience.
I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good things in here, but there's also, I'll just talk to my concern. But one of the items is to require bond measures proposed to voters under the reduced threshold to include specific project lists. Given given the nature of changing facilities needs and how long these bond programs last for, I'm not supportive of that. I mean, most of the rest of the pieces in this are pretty good, although a few of them I do have other questions about, but that one in particular, my fear is the way it would be implemented would be too constraining. And it's
So-
and that's the primary reason why I'm not supportive of this legislative plan.
Okay, so as you might know, that the legislative plan happens when we start with a legislative bill. It's as big as a room. But what ends up happening is it gets chopped down, and it is when it is actually a bill, it is this big instead of a room. So this is just for us to be supportive of them. It doesn't mean that everything they are asking is going to end up on the bill. However, as a committee, as a CBOC committee, if we have any comments, I will be more than happy to connect you guys to the founder of CABOC, and I'm sure he is a very good listener. So, and I had some comments earlier, and he was able to tailor it down and make sure that the bill was trimmed to the expectations.
Well,
So if we have,
does
so
the,
if we have, sorry,
does the CABOC have any authority, or are they trying
CABOC was established because of Little Hoover Commission, who suggested that we have a bond oversight association for all the bond committees throughout the state. So they only thing they are doing is they are not technically a legal entity as such, but they are there to support us. They are organization that works for CABOCs and guides us whenever we are stuck in issues. If we have any like, for example, when when we were going through issues in summer or before summer, I did reach out to them and they were able to guide me.
Hmm.
So that's what I would say.
Okay.
So, and as you may know, that the bills can come from anyone, even a single person can bring up a bill, but they are doing it in the guidance of Little Hoover Commission, and State Treasurer Fiona Ma is a big supporter of the bill. She has seen it multiple times, and she agrees that this is a well needed bill. There
Oh,
are quite a few
sorry,
supporters.
who did you say was supportive? You mean in that this is somebody who's
State
supportive
Treasurer,
and responsive? Oh,
State
the state
Treasurer,
treasurer.
yeah.
Gotcha. But just to respond to your earlier comment, Vinita, now I get that that politics is the art of compromise, and there may be some things that I wouldn't be how I would do it, but but I'd be okay with that. But in particular, the particular issue around how fixed the project lists are is one that that I would really need to understand before I could support. There's certain things that are just too concerning for me that I'm not willing to support, and that's in that category for me.
Okay. Carla, you have your hand raised.
So I did take a look at it, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think I did have a concern about the minimal budget in terms of there didn't seem to be like a certain like percentage, or it didn't seem to connect in terms of what that amount would be, which I think to me I would want it to be, you know, limited in terms of like if it's like our bond is right $650 million, and I would only want it to be like a point, you know, I don't know, 0.1% in terms of whatever that budget would be. I just don't like the idea of the CBOC taking money away from the bond program, even if it's a minimal amount. And I don't like the vagueness of that, of it being whatever, because I totally understand what Kathy's saying in terms of you can't have independence if you don't have a certain amount budgeted, but at the same time I also don't like the idea of taking any money away from the bond program. So it feels to me like a little bit of a catch-22. So I don't know, I don't really feel that supportive of this idea of taking any funds away from the bond program, even if it's for a good reason, which would be to have more independence for the CBOC.
Okay, fair enough. Any other comments? Any other discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion one way or the other? If not, then what we can do is we can bring it back for next month. And yeah, let's go with the motion first. If you have a motion.
Well, why don't you just call for a vote to see whether it's supported by the members?
Yeah, so there has to be a motion to ask for a vote.
Motion to ask for a vote.
To support or to
To take a vote on the voting of the members as to whether or not they want to give approval from this committee to that proposal. That's really what you sent it out for and what you're asking for, is it not?
So I think Kathy, just whatever motion you make, you have to just kind of make it like a statement, like I move to support, and then we vote yes or no whether we agree, right? Or you say I move to not support. So it has to be like an affirmative statement of sorts.
I make the motion. Yes. We take a vote for members to either indicate approval or support of this motion, of this proposal.
I think to make it more specific, Kathy, you could just say to approve the resolution, because that is what's on the agenda. And
yeah.
Well, my motion is to not approve. Okay, my motion is to not approve the
you can vote against your own motion, Kathy.
Okay.
Sorry. Maybe it's a clarifying question. I guess I'm not sure. I don't understand the intent of your motion, Kathy. It would be clear to me if it was a motion to approve or a motion to not approve the resolution.
Or motion to bring back. Or motion to bring back
is
next
not
month.
to bring back, is to put this, to have a vote on it one way or the other. For members to express whether they are in favor of it or not in favor of it, so we can get on to other business, which we never get to. That is really what this is.
So I'm going to move to amend Kathy's motion and move to not approve the resolution.
There you go.
Okay. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor of not approving the resolution, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you.
Or you should call for all opposed.
So I think we have all the votes, and it is unanimous by the voting members to not approve the resolution. Right? Okay.
I think
Chip,
four voted not to support. What I
and then I think you still have to say all opposed, all.
Right.
Then,
right.
So you say all.
So anybody who opposes the motion, please say aye or nay. Nay. Okay. So as I said, it is unanimous, and there's nobody who wants to support the resolution except me, but that's okay. Unanimous among the voting members other than me.
Okay, can I clarify? So then you voted against the motion.
I'm voting against the not approving of resolution, because Kathy's motion was to not approve the resolution, and I want to vote to approve the resolution. Okay.
So do we have to say motion, like Kathy's motion passes, right? Did we say that? I just want to make sure that everything's clear.
Kathy's motion passes. Kathy's motion passes with everybody except for me voting for it.
Perfect.
Okay. And there is no motion to bring it back next month, right? To understand it more or talk about it more?
Nope.
No?
I don't think I hear any.
Say it again, Chip. I could hear.
Is anything going to change between now and next month, or?
We can get more information. We can ask them to come and present it to us. That is the only thing that I can think about. I mean, we can ask them to come and present it to us, and ask them more questions. If you have any questions and concerns, share it with them.
From my point of view, I don't need any more discussion, but.
Okay. So looks like there's no motion to bring this agenda item back. Is there? Did we get any committee? And then moving on to the next agenda item, did we get any more committee membership applications?
No, we have not.
Okay. We are in dire need right now, as we were discussing earlier, and we should discuss it in person over here, that Paul has not been attending the meetings. With that effect, he probably he's not considered a committee member anymore. And we do need committee members. We need more committee members. Okay. Long range facility plan.
Can I before we move on, can I ask a question about that? Are there any steps that staff has taken recently to seek out more committee members, or any commentary on the challenges?
I'll say, so I checked in on, there's a single application that applicants can use for a number of committees. We've received a good handful of applications recently, interest in a number of committees. This one is harder to fill. It's a very specific vacancy for the member role. It's a senior citizens representative group. I'm not sure if I'm getting that language quite right, but it's a very specific vacancy that's open, and then the alternate positions. We've been able to fill a number of open seats on the Facilities Advisory Committee and other committees, but they're just not quite so narrow. So this one is a challenging vacancy to fill.
Okay.
And we have previously provided paper applications at like the senior center, but I'm going to find maybe, I don't know exactly what senior organizations would qualify for this vacancy, but I'll try to reach out directly to them. But again, I don't really know what groups qualify for this in Fremont, so I'll have to investigate, maybe see which groups have qualified it for previous members and reach out to them.
This is Kathy. For seniors, you don't have to belong to a group. You just have to be a senior. And
it's not that vacancy.
Okay.
It's a senior. Hold on, let me.
Senior Citizens Organization.
Senior Citizens Organization.
If you have any seniors interested, I am more than willing to resign and let a senior take my place, because we need new blood. And if you have a senior that is interested, I am perfectly willing to resign in order to have them do it, because I'm only on for 2 more months anyway.
You are not in the same category as Senior Citizen Organization, Kathy. I'm looking at the membership list, and you are considered other.
Other? Oh, I thought I was senior.
No.
Okay. Well, I do other too. I will resign other. Because
No, we have you and Carla for other. Please don't resign. We need you guys.
So just, I mean, looking at the list of vacancies, it does look like there's some opportunities. Others pretty easy to fill when Kathy turns out. I think business organization, I'm under the Fremont Chamber of Commerce. Senior citizens organizations, I don't know, does AARP qualify? If so, then there's probably a large pool there. The city of Fremont has a number of services for senior citizens too, so they may be. And then I see a parent, guardian, parent teacher organization alternate vacancy on the list as well, which never saying it's easy to fill any of our committees, but I think there are some things we can do there. Certainly taxpayer organization has always been the most difficult to fill. And I don't have good suggestions on that one, but I think the others, there's some possibilities.
And with Paul gone, we will need at least one main position of taxpayer organization will be open, and then alternatives also open. Carla, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So Laura, I'm going to renew my request for you or someone from district communications to email all the principals of the schools and ask them to add it to their newsletter or their communication to parents, because I was just at a Walters junior high. We had a Title I meeting, and the principal was there as well as staff and parents. It was on Zoom, and I told them that we had vacancies including this Measure E, Measure I, a number of vacancies that are committees through the district. And the principal said she had no idea that there were vacancies, and that there's a list of, that the superintendent's newsletter has a list of these vacancies that are part of his newsletter. And the principal said she had no idea, and there were a number of parents in that meeting also that said they had no idea. So I'm going to renew that request. If you, or I don't know who I need to ask to make that happen, or I'll send it to the principal myself and have her ask if she'd be willing to put it in their newsletter. But that to me is the best way to advertise, is ask the site principals to put it in their newsletter to parents.
When I became a member almost 3 years ago, I was invited to consider and joining the CVOC by Therese Gain, who was the director of facilities at the time at FUSD. So my question is it the board, the school board's job and the FUSD's job to fill the board, our CBOC, or is it us, the members of the CBOC?
No, so that is a difference. That is the reason. That is something that the bill is going to talk about. But right now, it's not us as CPOC committee members who reach out. It is a school board which is supposed to reach out,
Okay.
and that has been a snag.
So what have they been doing? Have they done
Uh,
anything?
I was told that there had been some advertising done, but that's I don't know.
Where did they advertise? Because I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on. I don't see anything.
We do post, so for CBOC specifically, it's always listed in the newsletter, and general vacancies for committees are listed fairly regularly on our social media. We can do specific outreach for the CBOC to the groups that have vacancies. I think that might be helpful. But again, we are receiving applications for other committees with vacancies. It's this committee's vacancies that have proven a little bit more challenging. And again, I think it's because they're specific and alternate roles, but that's just a guess because we have received a good number of applications for other committees.
Okay.
Right. So considering that this is the only one which is having more issues getting the members, then probably the outreach needs to happen more for this committee than any other. If people are coming up for other committees and they're not coming for this one, then there is certainly a special need for this committee to be advertised more. Okay, moving on. Long range facility plan.
Okay, I have a little bit of an update for you guys on this. I'm going to try to share my screen, so bear with me for just a minute, if you would. Want this thing here. So what should come through is a document that's really difficult to read. I'm not intending for this to be very legible. I just wanted to show you, because I think what should pop off the page is the color green. Can you guys see that? Is it coming through okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with the facilities master plan update, what has happened and what is happening is that the architectural firm AE3 has been working with the individual school sites. And I believe it was before summertime, they crafted a set of surveys which were reviewed last month at the Facilities Advisory Committee. And those surveys were answered by a small set of individuals at the school site, each school site, as a way to gather baseline data to use to begin updating the master plan. What I didn't have at the time at my fingertips, and FAC will hear about this later this evening, was that this was not the be-all end-all of the process. After that initial survey data gets collected and filled out by the individual school sites, the architects use that information to update certain pieces, but then they schedule interviews. And so what you're going to see on this page here, if I can zoom in and it pops up well for you guys, is that they have every school listed, but you can see what the steps are. So after the initial setup, the registration has to do with the survey. The team questionnaire is the survey. And you can see certain sites have done the team questionnaire, the program questionnaire, M&O is maintenance and operations, and then there's a community questionnaire. They update the site plan, and then they do a site visit. And so the goal of the site visit is to verify in person the information that was submitted. So as an example, if a school site principal said, I want to use my site council, which has representatives of all over their school. It's going to have a classified employee, a certificated employee, a parent, et cetera, a student. If they used their site council to fill out the questionnaire, we are not taking, and the architect is not taking their word that it's accurate. We want, and the architect is going to every single school site and doing an interview to make sure that they get to talk to the different constituents at that campus. And so obviously some of those meetings will take longer than others because if it's an elementary school, there's fewer people to talk to than say a high school. And so The architect is in the process right now of scheduling those site visits to do interviews. We're not done with them. And you can see by the color coding, they're still working through several pieces of it. The point of the interview, the point of the questionnaire altogether is that it is intended to update what the architect is calling the school profile for every single school. That school profile will be brought back before committees like this one for you to be able to review and talk about prioritization. And also, and this is also for FAC, so Brian, you'll hear it a couple of times, for committees to provide input into what the district and the board should be thinking about after looking at all of this raw data. So that's just a summary sheet. There's lots of other things that the architect is compiling and putting together, but I wanted to give you a snapshot of the overall process. They don't expect to have all the site visits completed and the school profiles updated probably until the end of January, beginning of February. So I would anticipate that this committee and the FAC committee will probably receive a more substantive update then, where we can dive into the individual school profiles for every school. And then there'll also be some high-level summaries too. For instance, all the elementaries said they wanted X, and the high schools really prioritized Y. And then that information will be brought to you to be able to chew on and think about and represent the different groups that this committee represents. So that's kind of the facilities update in a nutshell.
You're on mute, Vanita.
Sorry, I was having trouble. Is there a document that lays out the overall process and plan that AE3 is following? Because that would be kind of really helpful to understand, even if some of the specific dates change, but it would be good to understand the full process.
Yes, there is. I can get that to you guys. Basically, the workflow that they're following is in this thing here. So visually, this gives you an idea of what it is that the architect is doing. So their approximate timeline there is on the right-hand side. Again, not date per se, but gives you how long they think each of the steps take. So they schedule the site review, that's step number 2. Takes about a week to do that. They complete the interviews, that's 2 weeks per site. They update the site profile, that's 3 to 4 weeks. After that, step 4 is when it would come back for committee input prior to being finalized and going to the Board of Education.
So there was a request made, we had seen that overview before, and at the time there was a request made to, for representatives of the CBOC and the FAC to meet with staff to, to clarify the exact process and how it's going to work, so that we can make sure we can efficiently and effectively use the committees to provide input. I still think that would be very helpful for perhaps for the chair of each committee to work with staff on that in advance, well in advance of any agenda.
Well in advance of which meeting?
Well in advance of any agenda item for the committees, for us to really understand the process. How are we going to go information? What's going to be the process to go through it? Because there's going to be a lot of information to plan out. Like, I'm expecting FAC to require multiple meetings to go through that much information, and for it to take, because the last time FAC did a major prioritization project, it took us 3 to 6 months to go through the information, to prioritize it, and ultimately give a recommendation to the board, which was the I think the last major update to the bond program plan.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take multiple sessions. I don't think anyone believes it's a single session item. And we can definitely set up, I believe, maybe I'm wrong and we don't do this now, but as far as an agenda setting meeting beforehand to be able to organize the how we do this, because you're right, there's a ton of data, and there's going to be a ton of data for every single school site. That site profile is going to be very detailed. So I agree that prior planning is going to be needed.
Okay. Any other discussions? Any questions for Mr. Hillman?
One other thing, I'm in an interesting position being on both committees, but one other thing I want to bring up is kind of the role of committee input, and maybe that'd be worth staff thinking about with the board, because the Facilities Advisory Committee was specifically chartered with deep advisory work, and at least at the time, years ago now, the board looked at the CBOC as just for oversight work. Not saying that we shouldn't collect input from both, but I think that's one of the things we want to make sure is clear as well going into this process, is the nature and role of each of the committee.
And I agree. The Facilities Advisory Committee, within the name, it defines its purpose. And I think that the long-range facilities plan update is primarily within its wheelhouse. The CBOC is really about the expenditures of the bond program. And so there will be bond expenditures made to fulfill the long-range facilities plan. That's where the overlap occurs. But the FAC is really the driver of, I would say, that prioritization. I think that every district does this a little bit differently. And I think that I'll just take this opportunity to put in my 2 cents, having come from a district that had a joint committee. They had a facilities oversight and advisory committee. And they were very good at switching hats, meaning in the middle of the meeting, we would agendize things to be, you're wearing your oversight hat right now. Let's talk about the bond. And then you would switch to an advisory hat, and you'd be able to dive into things like this master plan, for instance, and provide input to the board. And so I think what we found in my previous place was that the skill set and the interest of citizens in this particular topic is very robust, but also very narrow, because there aren't a ton of people that get it or are interested in getting it. And so what ends up happening is that we are able to share those skill sets across both hats, and advisory and an oversight. And so a lot of the same people are interested in both, which is, I think, evident from the fact that the questions that are raised in this committee are very similar to some of the questions raised in the FAC. That's not surprising to me. So at any rate, for whatever that's worth, I think one of the issues that you were just discussing about having members and finding qualified individuals to serve on a committee in very specific roles could be potentially mitigated by that conversation. But I'm the new guy, so I'm not making any suggestions on changing anything. I would just throw that out as something to consider. But we do have quite a bit of work in this committee here for oversight to keep up with all the things happening with Measure E. And maybe when Measure E is over or something, that would be worth considering. But the update to the long-range facilities plan is also a ton of work, and probably will take all or most of the spring to get through. That would be my hunch. It's not a from scratch plan. It's an update to an existing plan, but a lot's changed since the first plan was originally written. So anyway, thank you for that.
Okay. Mr. Hillman, I would request that when you have a presentation like that, either you give us a link or share the slides ahead of time, so we have an opportunity, because as you mentioned, it was not showing up in very detail. I don't know. Did you say you did not want it to show as detail, or was it not under your control?
I was stating that I wasn't expecting you to be able to read all of the verbiage on the screen. That wasn't the point of me showing those 2 slides. I was trying to answer a general question about the update to the overall plan, knowing that this committee's purpose is really about Measure E. But I wanted to show you the same thing that we are going to talk about at FAC in about 45 minutes, because I didn't want you to not see it.
Okay. However, I'll still request that you share such slides with us ahead of time, or so that we have actually an opportunity, if we want to look into it, we can actually look into it.
I'd be happy to do that, especially when I get AE3 to provide me with an update that is specific to this committee. This update was not meant for a committee, it was meant for staff. And I just wanted to share it with you because I was trying to answer some of the questions you raised at the last meeting in I think it was my second week or so when we met.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hillman, or we'll move along for the next agenda item? Seeing none,
No questions.
thank you. Seeing none, we have the next agenda item is upcoming meeting. So next scheduled meeting November 30th at 7:30, and it says consider moving to December 7th following board calendar adjustment. Laura, do you want to speak about it? Or
Yeah, so this item, the same item appears on the FAC agenda as well. The board in October, so earlier, sorry, actually last month now, voted to move its December meeting to the 14th. So we had avoided December 7th because the board meeting had been on that night, but now it's moved. So if we would like to move this meeting, the CBOC's next meeting, to December 7th, which is the first Wednesday of the month and the proper meeting date, that would be helpful to staff because it gives us a longer time between meetings to prepare, to give you updates on anything that comes out of this evening. And it also then doesn't put us that week right when we return back from Thanksgiving break, which I think is where November 30th lands us. So that's the suggestion, that we move it back to its proper night, December 7th. And the vote here will let the FAC members know what happened here as well.
I move
Okay.
to move it back to December 7th.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody against, say nay. Motion passes. We will have it on December. I mean, we suggest that we have it on December 7th. This is our vote.
Okay, and then there's another one on here.
Well,
Yes.
This is also on the FAC as well, FAC agenda as well. On January 18th, that's an off-schedule meeting for the CBOC because the first Wednesday falls in the winter break. So we scheduled January 18th as the meeting for FAC and CBOC. However, January 18th is also now the evening that we're going to host the State of the District. And the staff that support this meeting will be in attendance at that event.
So do you recommend that we don't have January meeting?
Well, I'm just going to look. So we have,
What would be wrong with January 11th?
I believe that's a
There's a
board,
board
meeting.
meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the challenge was the first week of January is still part of winter break. The 11th is the board meeting. The 18th is the State of the District. The interestingly enough, the second board meeting in January is on Monday, the 23rd. So the 25th is available, but then February 1st, the week following, we could do two meetings back to back. That doesn't. So, and as I was looking after, because Laura mentioned this to me as fact chair, and I was looking at the calendar, there wasn't an obvious place to move the meeting on the 18th. And so I guess, there wasn't an obvious date in January to move it to, unless we move it off a Wednesday somewhere.
Yeah, I will entertain a motion to not have a January meeting, if you guys are okay with that.
I would be okay.
Is there a motion?
I'll move we delete our meeting in January because of inavailability of FUSD resources.
Okay, there's a motion and there's a second. So when you say move, you mean to say not have January meeting and instead
No meeting in January. I move that we not have a meeting in January.
Yes, thank you.
Can I amend that, and can we just join the January meeting and the February meeting together? Because I think the bylaws, I just, I don't know if, again, I don't have the bylaws in front of me, so I don't know if we can just not have a meeting. But if we say we're going to combine them, where January and February meetings will be on February, the February meeting date, then I don't know. I feel like that seems better to me.
Chip, do you accept the amendment?
We can come. I'll move. We combine the January and February meeting on the first Wednesday of February.
Thank you. Um, second, okay. Can I have all those in favor say yeah?
Yeah.
Aye.
I
Any opposing? Any absentees? Okay. So moved. We, Laura, you can take the notes that we have a motion, we have a vote that we don't want to have a January meeting and it will be rather moved with February. Okay.
And then this
That's
final item on this, the final bullet on this item is we had spoken previously about hosting an in-person meeting at a site undergoing construction. Danny, do you want to talk about this or just want me to give an overview of the conversation?
Sure. When we started to analyze both the request of the CBOC and the FAC about going to a school site, and we were synthesizing all the points made at the last month's meetings jointly, we realized that with the time change, things are going to get pretty dark. And so to do a meeting in the time frame, the time slot that we currently have been doing it might be difficult. And so when we started to look at the projects that are under construction right now, the 3 middle school construction projects, one of the 3 will more than likely be in a state that you could visit the open floor at Centerville, because students are going to more than likely take occupancy of that sometime in maybe January or so. So if we were to schedule an in-person, face-to-face meeting, and we did it at Centerville, we could possibly take you on a tour and you could see what students would be using on a daily basis. The second floor of the building may not be open yet because they'll still be installing the stairwell. But the first floor you could see, and then you would see a couple of things. One, how new construction is going up alongside modernizations on the same site. And then you would also get a bit of a feel, although not exactly the same, of what it feels like to be on an occupied site, meaning for construction and students to be attending school at the same time. You'd see fencing, you'll see some different things happening. So we thought that might give you a good feel for it. The other schools that are you could choose to visit if you like this concept, would be Hopkins. Hopkins is a little bit different. The new building being built there is kind of off to the side. And then there's Thornton, and I'm not sure Thornton would be far enough along that you would be able to get into the classrooms and spaces to see what's going on, the ones under construction now. We could walk you through the new buildings that are open. So we thought that would be of the most interest to the most members, being able to walk a site in the daylight and see new construction and some of the things that the bond dollars have been paying for. And so we wanted to put that out for your consideration as a possible in-person meeting concept.
Fair enough. But I think the conversation started because the team has not even seen Hopkins yet. So that was a bigger reason, because Hopkins has been functional for over a year now, almost a year.
Oh, you mean Horner, I think.
Horner, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Horner. So I think the initially when we started talking about it, it was because we wanted the committee to look at Horner.
We can certainly schedule something for Horner. So it just depends on what time of year you'd like to do it. You let us know and we'll make it happen.
I mean, we were
I'm actually interested in the Centerville proposal. Seeing something during construction, I think, would be informative. But I was just not totally clear on the proposed logistics, like which day and what time to start. Is there? Maybe you mentioned it and I just didn't register, but I just wanted to make sure.
Given that this is the time frame in which these two committees meet, I believe the concept, and again, it was my first time engaging with you all, but what I remember you discussing between the two committees was that normally when you guys have done this in the past, you've done a tour in between the two meetings. So you do the CBOC at a certain time, take a tour jointly, and then you have the FAC committee. It could still happen in the evening because the time change will be in our favor. And using that time frame at Centerville in the spring would mean you would see a campus that is under construction and being occupied at the same time. If you want to see a completely finished campus, then Horner would be a better option.
So when you say in the spring, you're thinking like our March or April meeting, or?
Correct.
That's
one of
what.
those two.
Yeah, that's what the agenda says. March or April.
Oh, I guess that is what it says. Sorry. Well, yeah,
Okay.
I'm supportive. I'm supportive of that idea. I would.
Carla, you have your
I
hand
would
raised.
even.
Sorry, Brandon. She has to leave. So.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Carla,
Sorry.
please go ahead.
I'm honestly open to see anything, so I'm not really that picky. Whatever can be planned and we could see it, I think that's great. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
In my mind, we could even see indoor construction where we don't have to be outside. It could be indoors. See, finished work on the inside of classrooms or laboratories or whatever. And we've done that in the past too.
And if that's the committee's preference, we can try to set up the newly moved December meeting at Horner next month. I don't think that's a problem.
I think that was our ask in the last meeting too. So anybody else wants to pitch in, or should we let Mr. Hilvin think about December meeting at Horner?
So what I'm here? I mean, why don't I throw this out there? Why don't we do the December meeting at Horner and the March meeting at Centerville?
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. I think that's what we wanted to begin with. It's if we are meeting in person, then it should not matter where we meet in future. So whichever school the school district would like us to see, we would be open to that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Hillman, it's a request from our committee that we have our December meeting in person at Horner. And March and April meetings can be scheduled at Centerville and other schools.
Okay, sounds good. We'll get it together.
Thank you. Moving to the next agenda item, November Measure E budget report.
Samara? Hi, yes, I'm getting it up right now. I think it should.
Oh, there you are.
Is it up? Okay, here we go. All right. I'll go through this fairly quickly. Nothing big has changed other than just the usual, transactions between last report and this report. So of the $664,678,000 budget, 83% of that has been encumbered, has been committed, contracted, and there's a remaining budget of 17%, as you can see here. As I did last time, I included this table of the OPSC state funding. Those numbers are excluded from the overall budgets, but it was requested that I include that, so it's there. Here are the in-progress projects and the program administration cost. Just like last time, we added this negative line item to offset the program admin costs at the project level, so that because currently without that it would be double dipping, and there's basically 2 ways of correcting that, and one way is to reduce the budgets of all the in progress and future projects. Group 2 and Group 3 projects, as well as the in progress ones. But doing so, that I think that would cause confusion, because it would look like the project budgets have gone down when they really haven't. So the solution that we have here is to add that negative 10,579,000, so that we can offset that the amounts that are already in the project at the project level. Yes, Brian.
How should I interpret the remaining budget figure in the grand total?
Yes, so that's the that's kind of the issue. The way that we would have to solve that is to go into every one of these projects levels and recode, basically recode everything each. So you'd have to take the encumbered amounts that are here and recode them so that they are spread throughout these projects. And we have not done that because it's not practical in terms of an accounting standpoint. So that's why it looks like there's a negative remaining budget, because we're making up for the total budget by putting this line item, but we can't account for the encumbered. Because in order to do that, we'd have to, recode it all.
This is still a little confusing, but I'm not sure it's worth the committee's time for me to keep asking questions. But if anything we can do to make this easier to understand, that would be appreciated. I'm happy to talk more offline if that helps.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I wish that there was, I tried to think of a better way to present it visually, but we can work on that more. Moving on to the closed projects, nothing really has changed here. The future projects, nothing has changed. I did add this program contingency, or rather I moved the bond program contingency line to its own table right here, per the conversation of during last meeting. And here's the grand totals. And the not funded projects, as usual, it's a static list. And here as an attachment are the program expenditures as transactions for the period of September 7th through October 7th, to give the committee a snapshot of the activities.
Samara, what's the status of the contingency?
What do you mean by that?
Is the contingency shrinking, growing, staying the same from month to month?
So I think that's, I'm not sure. Lisa, can you help with?
I can't read what you have
Maybe the
there.
word you use, reserve.
I'm sorry, Chip?
I mean, another way to ask the question is: there been any board action to allocate?
We have not
$50
done
in
any
a couple of months?
actions that would reduce the program contingency yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, no.
So it's pretty well static at 1.1? Yeah. Still, since the that adjustment that was done earlier in the year, removing the OPSC or the Prop 51 funds. So it's pretty well static at 1.1. We have not had any large or any adjustments where we've drawn from the program contingency to add to any of the projects at this time.
So none of
It's usually the next agenda item you give us heads up on ongoing project risks. So maybe.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. Any further discussions, or we can move to the next agenda item?
Does anybody have any more questions? Okay.
Okay, Lisa, you are up. November monthly project status report.
Okay. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And we have a little more time this time.
Yep.
However, it's
Let's keep it short. I have a small announcement to make, and yeah,
why is this not? Can you see? Yeah.
we can see it's not in the
All right.
presentation mode though.
On my screen, it looks a little strange. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let me move this.
You can you can put it in the presentation mode.
Yeah.
View.
Go. View. No. Slideshow. Go. No. I usually just slide it over. Anyway.
You can leave it like that.
Yeah. Okay, so projects in design are Kennedy, of course. The district is still working out the details on how we're going to proceed with Kennedy. Although I don't know if Danny, if you want to go ahead and make any kind of announcement there. We have not taken any steps to move this forward at this time. Group ones are still going through some design based on the DSA requirements to add additional scope to these projects. The architects are still working on identifying, they have completed their site visits, and they're working on identifying areas of scope that they could include that would comply with the 25% requirement that DSA asks for using the budget. So each project budget is required to apply 25% of that budget to ADA compliance, which we didn't have anything that we really needed to do in terms of ADA on these projects. So the architects had gone back to the drawing board. They've gone to the sites, identified some scope. They are revising their documents and creating a presentation. We've asked them to put together a presentation that we can bring to the board to review potential scope increase, which then of course would require additional cost increase in the budget. So that presentation, they're working on those presentations, and we have not identified which board yet that we're going to bring that to, but we will, once we know that, and we will certainly bring that to your attention. The IT Scope Gap project was a project was created to capture a number of elements that needed addressing, I'll say, resulting from the IT projects that happened early on in the bond. So as those projects completed, the district realized that there were a number of items that needed to be addressed. So they created this project, brought it forth to the board. It was approved. And it was supposed to begin this year, 2022, but due to all the delay of COVID, et cetera, it had not started. And then over the course of this past year, it was determined that the district would take the lead on this project because it is such an intense IT, it's all IT and intense level of IT components, that the IT department would be the appropriate manager to take over this project. So they were taking the lead on this. I met with Melvin, who is the new IT CTO, and they're actually hired someone to take over this project and to manage it from within the IT department. And it looks like that is going to start here very shortly. So they're going to start working on that. Hopkins Elementary School, or I'm sorry, Hopkins Middle School conversion. As we've mentioned in the past, buildings ABC, all of the existing buildings and including the new building K2, which is the new music building, are complete. The new library now is complete, and it opened last week. Site landscaping is the majority of what's going on in terms of site work for
for the existing area. So that site landscaping between each building is ongoing. Site fencing is near complete. All of the fencing, new fencing is up with the exception of a couple of side wing panels and a couple of pieces of hardware. So all of the new big, black, beautiful gates are complete. Building K1, which is the new multi-purpose building, where the kitchen was completed early on, but prior to the start of school. Now the multi-purpose side is nearing completion. Finishes, equipment, flooring, that kind of thing is going on now. And they anticipate having that portion of the building complete toward the end of December. We'll be able to turn the NPR room over to the site. So that'll be good. They'll finish it just prior to Christmas break. So when they come back from school, they'll be able to use that portion of the building, which will be nice. If we can finish it sooner than that, they will, but right now it's tracking to complete toward the end of December. And then Building J, which is the new 2-story classroom building. Exterior lath and plaster continues to move around the exterior of the building. The MEP rough-in, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, continues through first and second floor. That's near complete. They are actually into putting in ceiling insulation, wall insulation, drywall. So that's ongoing. And then once they complete the plaster toward the end of November, we should be able to remove the scaffolding from around that new building, and you'll be able to see the full building and all its beautiful exterior. Thornton Middle School conversion, increments 1, which was site utilities, complete. Increment 2, which are the new five new buildings, are complete as well. Some punch list, miscellaneous punch list work is ongoing, small bits here and there. But now that increment 3, which is the modernization of the existing buildings, has started, those classrooms were moved into the 5 new buildings. So they are using the 5 new buildings currently for swing space. The modernization of the existing classroom buildings, increment 3B, has begun. All of the demo is complete. We did find, some termite situations, which is being addressed. AC paving, striping, irrigation, all of that is complete at the athletic fields. What am I trying to say? Oh, the new student drop-off is complete as well. So roughly in increment 3, the modernization of the existing buildings, it's really on the interior, rough framing, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So that's all ongoing. Increment 4, which is the construction of the new admin and library building. The demolition of the existing buildings, they took down two of the existing buildings to make space for the new building. We took 2 buildings down, subgrade excavation's done, subgrade preparation is done. They're actually going to start pouring footings next week. And then installation of the underground utilities, that's already obviously in progress. But once they complete the underground utilities, apologies, my brain went blank for a minute, then they're going to start working on the footing. So that construction of the new building is moving along very quickly. We've run into a couple of issues, a gas line here or a water line there that we've had to deal with, but nothing that's caused any kind of serious impact. And then Centerville, increment 3, which is the increment 3, which is the new construction of the new building. All of the modernization of the existing buildings is complete. Again, miscellaneous punch list items here and there, but really the focus of scope of work right now is on the new building. So the interior exterior paint, ceiling insulation, finished mechanical, which is the trims, the devices, rough plumbing, all of that's in progress in the interior of the building. Exterior wall metal panel finishes in progress. If you've had a chance to go by, you might see some of them going up. So you definitely see the red and white exterior transition across the building. It looks really nice. And then casework in the classrooms, labs, offices, all of that is ongoing within the interior of the building. Buildings A, B, C, D, and K are substantially complete except for little exterior painting, some punch list items going on there. Athletic fields are substantially complete. Grading and subgrade preparation of the new student drop-off has started there. So That's really about the only exterior work that's going on. Everything else is happening inside the new building. And then increment 2 updates, reinforcing steel. Oh, increment 2 is for the new gym and locker room. So reinforcing steel and concrete placement for the foundations of the new locker room. Underground rough plumbing installation in progress, rough framing in progress. So that's all moving along very well as well, with hopes to have that done by early mid spring of next year. So to what Mr. Hillman was saying is, with Centerville, the first floor is moving along so quickly. The first floor will be ready probably February is what we're looking at. And then the second floor will continue with some finishes and whatnot. But once we move the classrooms into the first floor, the purpose of that is so that we can empty out building E, which is the adjacent building, and that building needs to come down so that the exterior stair out of the second floor of Centerville can be constructed. So we can't actually occupy the second floor until we knock down building E and can build the exterior stairs, because you have to have the 2 exits out of the second floor. So it's kind of a little bit of a dance, a shift, moving the kids into the first floor, out of building E, knocking building E down, building the stairs to the exterior, and then they can occupy the second floor. And that would be finished around May of next year. So well in time to complete all of their finished work, punch list, all of that, and preparations for the conversion, moving all the 6th graders over next summer. Photos, Thornton. Come on. Look, there we go. Modernization of existing buildings, just a lot of patching and new surfaces, new finishes. A lot of site work going on at Thornton. Come on, geez. Related to the new building. This is the area that they were digging up for the new admin building and library. Centerville. As you can see here, the metal panels going up on the side here on the left in the top picture, but the building looks really nice. I think it's come a long way. Interior, you can see the finishes going in here, casework, roof work. So that's construction of the new building and modernization of the existing buildings. A lot of utility work right now and interior foundation work. Locker bays here up top right, that kind of thing. Hopkins, building J classroom, the new 2-story classroom building. You can see the interior here. They've got the drywall going up and insulation going in. And again, just an update picture an update photo of the exterior of the new building. It's really coming along nicely. And that hopefully all that scaffolding will be gone in November, so we can see it in December nice and clean. And then this is the building K1, the interior of the new multi-purpose space. So you've got your stage, big roll down doors. So these roll down doors will open for lunch. So it just does welcoming the exterior into the interior. We'll have lunch tables outside. So the kids can come and go in between, and just the acoustic panels, etc. But that's the new exterior, the complete exterior of the multi-purpose K1 section of that building. So very nicely.
Lisa, is that a stage in the multipurpose room?
Yes, that's the stage. This top photo here on the right.
Okay, I thought we were not doing it after Centerville stage failed. So I thought we are not going to do that in future, because acoustic in Centerville multipurpose room is terrible. And that was a very big point when we were talking about theater at Centerville. So I'm surprised that there was no question asked about having a theater in the multipurpose room. I'm sure acoustic is going to be terrible over there too.
Well, that's why they're putting all of these acoustic panels, which are down here on the left. But yeah, forgive me, Benita, I don't really have any background on that.
Okay.
When I got here last year, and the project was going out to bid, it was already included in the design. So forgive me, I don't have any background
That's
on
okay. I
that
mean,
to really respond.
that's okay. I understand, but that should not have happened to begin with.
Mm. Well, that's not good. Okay.
Yeah, Centreville
And
does
then,
not use its theater multi-purpose room for theater just because of for the stage, just because of that reason.
That'd be a good thing to look at in the long range facilities plan update, right? Just
Yeah.
all the schools have stages in the multipurpose room. How effective
Right.
are they? Is there a need there?
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did have a question about the projects in
yes, sir.
design, because that's typically where we have a lot of the budget risk.
Right.
I guess the question is, yeah, what is there project budget risk?
There will be increase, and we've been, kind of talking about this over the last few months. There will be some increase on the group ones. It's just going to depend on the scope that was identified by the architects that would meet compliance by DSA, what that scope wants to look like, and what the price tag is going to be to add that scope, as well as the soft costs that will also come, in tandem with the adding of the scope. So it'll just depend, and that's what we need them to identify what would give us the most bang for the buck, but the least impact, and also meet compliance with DSA, right?
Apologies if this question is maybe a little outside of the scope, but this DSA requirement, I mean, is there any way we can push back on DSA, or is there, or I don't know, or is it actually a good requirement? I just needed more education on it because it seems to be adding a bunch of scope to the project. I know I'm not saying for this specific project, but in the general sense.
Compliance, it's a difficult position to be in. You can't really push back on that. So these projects.
Although I'm talking more from a legislative perspective, right? Kind of echoing some of the earlier items, right? Certainly, we can't affect these projects, but
right.
But I would be interested in because typically, I mean, that's what I've heard over and over again for as many years as I've been doing this. Is that there's this new DSA requirement? Surprise!
Yeah.
And it seems like there has to be a way for a better balancing act there, unless all these requirements really are good, but they definitely lead to additional costs, which means other projects won't get done. So
they do. And in addition to that, now come January 2023, there's going to be a new code cycle. So now that once we bring these projects forward and say, okay, they've identified the ADA scope that will give us the most value for the least amount of cost, hopefully, but also meet compliance with DSA.
So are there are there districts or professional organizations that are like pushing back with DSA to try and come up with something a little more reasonable, or is there more education needed?
Probably D, all of the above. Right. So
I guess I'm just tired. We hear this all the time, but we're not doing anything about it. And I'm at the point where I want to start doing something about it, especially on these last set of things we've been hearing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do about it. So I don't know if Mr. Hillman has any.
Apologies.
Actually, there's one more thing.
I want to echo what Brian said, and we brought this up in a meeting with the with CJ as well as the board, because we saw a lot of cost escalations where things had been approved by DSA. DSA. There was a length of time, something didn't happen, and then when we went back, they new requirements. They made us revert to it, though we had earlier approval as stated, and that's crazy. You cannot function that way, and it seems like that all the school districts are kind of just rolling over and allowing DSA to do this.
If I could just
Talk-
speak to this, I know we're running out of time, but
Yeah.
DSA is one of those things that this is a much larger conversation than we have time for right now. But I will tell you that DSA is essentially implementing the policies of the Office of Public School Construction. And that particular agency is dictated by the legislature. It's all interconnected. So it isn't just about advocating for one thing about DSA. You have to talk about the whole system. California has 5 different agencies that oversee school construction in the state. So it's more complicated, unfortunately.
There is
Yeah.
actually talking about legislation. There's another legislation coming up. I don't remember when it is starting to be effective. This one is from Assemblymember Alex Lee, which is about modernization of the bathrooms. We have not visited this point whether our bathrooms are already when we are getting them constructed, are they already compliant with the low flow and environmental friendly or not. And moving forward, we still have lots of open projects that is going to affect us. So if when we are talking about it, I think it will be in benefit of ours if we are discussing it right now instead of waiting for later time and go back to DSA.
And a lot of those are already being implemented. The low flow toilets, the chips, the I won't say lead because we don't really do lead. We do chips, but a lot of those components have been being incorporated into the projects early on. So because that's been around for a while, but we don't know.
This one is new. This one passed
This one's going to be new. Yeah.
Yeah, this one just passed in September of this year. So
yeah, and since these have not gone to DSA, the reason we are aware of the reason the architects were made aware with the group ones is you do a preliminary meet with DSA once you have your schematic design. You do a preliminary over-the-counter meet with DSA to make sure that they are comfortable that we are meeting all of the requirements, and that's when DSA identified that these group 1 projects were solely really an HVAC, roof, and some flooring, right? So even though the flooring is being changed out from carpet to flooring within the space, DSA mandates that because you're changing out flooring, then you have the potential to impact the threshold and then the path of travel outside the space. So that's where they are able to insert their additional requirement that we meet 25% of the budget is applied to ADA. So,
okay.
So they've gone back
I'm
to
sorry.
the drawing
I'm
board.
sorry, Lisa. I know Brian has to go, so
Yep.
I'll just move on to the next agenda item, which is the agenda items for next month. Do you have anything that you want to put on the agenda for next month? Okay, seeing none, we don't have any agenda for next month. Let's have fun. There are a couple of things that I wanted you guys to know. It's not agendized, so I did not want to bring it up for discussion. But I was invited today to join a FCMAT, which is facilities mitigation kind of committee, which is going to Mr. Hellman.
Fiscal
Yes.
crisis management and
Exactly. There you go.
team.
Thank
There you
you.
go.
Thank you. That one. So I will be attending the meeting on next Tuesday, and I'm hoping that Chip will be able to accompany me to that meeting. This is in regards to whatever happened last year, the complaint that was brought to our attention, and then it was also lodged with the Alameda County Education Board. The second item that I wanted to talk about was I don't want to come out rude, but we voted an agenda item that most of the people who voted did not even read it today. The resolution was not read by most of them, except for Brian. I don't think anybody else said that they read it. in its entirety. You
Mhm.
did? You
Not
read
to the degree
the
that
both of
Brian
them?
did, but I did read it, and I did send you something. Just saying that in general, it looked okay.
Okay. Okay. So that's, I just want us to be aware of it, that when we are voting, we actually learn about it before we vote, because it affects the future of our vote and what we are voting on. So that's it. It's 7:34. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Meeting adjourned, 7:34. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Hillman.
Good
Thank
night.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Danny,
We are recording, so